best for last.
Oh, there you go.
Brilliant. Yeah, almost as close as we were on the plane. Ready? Danny Flexen for Seconds Out here with legendary former featherweight champion of the world Barry McGuigan, now the head of Cyclone Promotions, of course. Barry, we were on the plane together earlier today. I've got to thank you actually belatedly, because you kind of in a way set me up with a young lady on the seat next to me by kind of removing yourself from the seat in the first place.
That means you could get closer, and it was a serendipitous moment, wasn't it? And I listened to your conversations. Actually, I was over in the other side, but
Bit voyeuristic, Barry.
not only in the sense you were talking about boxing. So she was saying, where are you going and what are you doing, what do you work at, and then you were giving her the wherewithal and telling her what you were doing. So that was the only part I was listening to. Nothing voyeuristic at all.
I told her I was the heavyweight champion of the world because she knows nothing about boxing, so I could get away with it.
So she fell for it.
Yeah. Stupid and beautiful, it's just what I'm looking for. No, just kidding, in case she ever watches this. Barry, you're here in the capacity as head of Cyclone. Your guy Josh Taylor's going in the WBSS semi-final this Saturday against Ivan Baranchyk. How proud of you that something you started a number of years ago now has led to this, to the semi-final of a huge tournament and a world title challenge for someone your son has trained since the very start of his professional career?
Yeah, well, that's it really. My part in the whole business is just watching what he does and encouraging the kids and giving them a little G up when they don't spar well, and so my part has always been just trying to get the best fights, picking and discussing it with Shane and with young Josh, and deciding, young Josh Pritchard, Shane's assistant coach, what's the best fights, how aggressively can we move with him, how quickly can we push on, when will he do sort of 8 rounds, 10 rounds, 12 rounds, etc., etc. So that's my part, and I'm in the gym as much as I can. I don't watch every sparring session, but I watch the guys work, and I watch the strength work that they're doing with him. And Daryl Richardson is a wonderful, incredible strength coach, and he works with Joshy P and with Shane, and it's great to see that intelligent, sophisticated preparation for each fight, because effectively that's what we're really good at, is getting guys ready and managing them, picking out the right guys and moving them at the right pace. That's what we pride ourselves on, and you're constantly learning, Danny. You're constantly getting better, and you can read all the books in the world, but it's the empirical evidence that is the important one. And so that's happening all the time, because there's always something that you've never seen before happen with a fighter, and the whole issue of courage and how you display that courage is a very fascinating. A whole book could be written on that, and it's interesting to watch that, and to watch how athletic the guys are and how successful they can be without being athletic. So there's a whole combination of things, but that fascinates me, and seeing the guys succeed and making progress and winning, because we all want to win.
We asked Shane earlier about some of the departures from the gym and also new additions. Obviously, Lawrence Okoli's recently come on board. He was very matter-of-fact about the whole situation. He said the gym's constantly evolving, people come, people go. As someone who's invested heavily in some of the people, are you a bit more emotionally involved than him, perhaps? Does it make you wary going forward of becoming emotionally invested in guys?
Yes. I mean, it's impossible to say that it doesn't. Of course it does, and we're all human. But again, that's not something I want to dwell on. I mean, on Saturday night we have a real fight on our hands. Josh is an incredible talent, and I spoke about that for a long time. He's reached fighting for the world title in 15 fights, which we believe is pretty impressive for a British fighter, and he's a great talent, and he's up against a very, very tough opponent on Saturday night, probably the most dangerous guys he's ever fought, and he's got to be focused and switched on from bell to bell, and use his intelligence more than ever. He's got to use his adaptability, whereas I think the difference between the two fighters are that Josh has got 2 games and Baranchyk has only got 1, and that's not belittling him, it's not underestimating him in any way. I just think Josh Taylor is an exceptional talent. He's got to show it, got to use it, got to let his power out intelligently, and be switched on from bell to bell.
Shane was also talking about earlier that Josh works obviously in the WBSS. You've got Luke Campbell and Lawrence Okoli who work with Matchroom. Okoli also works with AJ Boxing. So you're working with a number of different outfits at the moment. Is that the future for Cyclone Promotions and indeed the future for boxing?
Well, it's the future. I think it's the future for the time being with the McGuigan gym. It's just we've got to work with everybody, and Eddie and I used to say some terrible things about each other, but it was all spin. It was all in the emotion, because both him and I are we get behind our fighters. We want them to be successful, and it's easy to a slip of the tongue. You say something that you wished you hadn't said when you had a cooler head. Of course that happens, but let's be honest, he's an exceptional promoter, and Matchroom are all over the world now, and they need talent, and we need to work with him, and he's somebody we've chosen to work with, and he's been fantastic, and we're desperate to do more work with him, because we've got lots of opportunities for him, and we can help each other. It's a friendship of utility, but more than that, I'd like to think, despite all that nonsense, that we all have a great deal of respect for each other, and I certainly do have for him.
Do we need more of that in boxing as a whole? Friendships of utility, or even more than that? More outfits working together? I
think we have that in reality. It's just when you've got two opposing television networks, and they're at loggerheads, and they want to be, let's be honest about it. You know the business every bit as good as me, and probably better, the politics outside of it.
Not sure about that.
But the reality is that what this tournament offers is an opportunity for the best to fight the best. And without sounding like I'm blowing up Kelly and Nissa's backside, the reality is this is a brilliant tournament. And if this tournament had been around in my day, I could have fought Nelson. Nelson could have fought me, but he was with one television company, and I was with the other. And unless it's like De La Hoya and, in the norm, De La Hoya and someone like Mayweather, or Mayweather and Pacquiao, who again, unless they're world superstars, those sort of fights don't happen. And, it's the same situation with Spence and Crawford. There were two opposing, and it's almost like the people in those organisations hate each other more than the fighters hate each other, and it's stupid. What the WBSS offers is a chance to fight. And for Josh, we had the opportunity because Josh was the number one contender in the WBC, but we would probably have had to go to the west coast of America to fight Jose Ramirez, whereas in this tournament we had the chance to win both the IBF title and the WBA title. So it's a no-brainer. And they're offering the kids tremendous money, and that's great. And that's the only reason why these guys would come together in the first place. But all the governing bodies are willing to be part of it too, and I think it's a great tournament. So, big respect for them.
Leave you with a final hypothetical, and it's because you brought it up, so you can't blame me. Early 80s, WBSS tournament is staged. Top three seeds are Barry McGuigan, Azuma Nelson and Brian Mitchell. Which two make the final, and who wins the Ali Trophy?
That's an impossible question, because I'd be dumbing myself down if I said I didn't make the final. But I think Barry McGuigan at his best beats any of those guys. And I think, and I don't want to diminish, Nelson was a phenomenal fighter, as was Brian Mitchell. So maybe somebody feels differently, but I certainly feel that in my day I could have given any of the champions of any era a really tough time, and I could have beaten the majority of them.
Brilliant, Barry.
Very bumptious, but you asked me the question, you put me on the spot, Danny.
You brought it up, Barry. I'm blaming you. Right, Barry, I really appreciate your time and setting me up earlier like a modern day Cilla Black. That's that. I'm not sure what to thank you for more. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cheers, Barry.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, mate.
All right.
Really appreciate it.
I'm going to head back.
All right, take care. Thanks, guys.